Hello, my name is Al Freeman, Director of Schools for the Missouri District. Today I will bring to you information concerning the National Lutheran School accreditation process. Our goal today is to discuss the National Lutheran School evidence-based accreditation process, to take a look at the self-study, sections of the self-study and what they are and what they mean, how to evaluate required indicators, general indicators, required evidence, potential evidence, and what all of this means to the self-study process and how to get this information collected throughout your self-study and to be ready for the site visit that will occur. An overall perspective of the National Lutheran School accreditation process, including a score range to give you some type of an idea of an average and where you may be in that score range toward the end of the process. Time to spend with your consultant, that we highly advise you to get with your consultant early and often, and to utilize your consultant throughout the process. And then also I will provide you some available resource information, especially pointing you in the direction of luthed.org, a website that has all of the Nlsa process on there, including the self-study. It also has a webinar that will lead you through how to perform a self-study utilizing Google Docs, which I highly encourage you to do. And then also some other areas that you can go to that will provide help and guides to the Nlsa EBA process. Nlsa mission statement. National Lutheran School Accreditation encourages, assists, and recognizes schools that provide quality Christian education and engage in continuous improvement. And that is the goal, continuous improvement. Continuing to challenge yourselves, continuing to grow as a school, and continuing to provide for your school community. Purposes of NLSA: help Lutheran schools, early childhood centers, elementary and secondary to improve, to grow. Assure school quality by evaluating a school's compliance with required NLSA standards and indicators of success. Help all Lutheran schools to evaluate themselves based on their unique purposes and on national standards. And then to give appropriate recognition, to encourage you at the end of this process and to recognize you as a school that you have successfully completed the self-study, that you have completed the site visit, and that indeed you are recognized by NLSA as an accredited school. Here is a list of districts with more than 40 accredited schools. Here in Missouri, we have 60 accredited schools, and I give thanks for that. I give thanks for your dedication to the NLSA process. I give thanks for your willingness to undertake the NLSA process, knowing that it is something that is time-consuming. It can be a challenge, but it is meant for growth. It's meant for encouragement. It's meant to provide you feedback, to cheer you on with the things that are recognized that you're doing extremely well, and then also to point out areas that, yes, you could improve and you could grow. I hope that it does all of these things for you and for your school. Again, thank you for undertaking the process. Thank you for being one of those schools in the Missouri District that is NLSA accredited. The application process. Please send 2 copies of the application to the Missouri District. Hopefully you've already done this. The Missouri District NLSA Commission will assign a consultant to you. Again, please utilize that consultant throughout the process. An application fee or an annual fee of $600 is paid to NLSA. Hopefully you've already submitted your application and paid the fee back in April or May. If you have not, you should have received an invoice from the National Lutheran School Accreditation sometime in September that is payable by October 1st. You do not need to send in the application fee if you've already paid the annual fee or if you've already submitted your application back in April, May, or June. Materials, again, are at luthed.org. I encourage you to go to luthed.org, not only for Nlsa materials and information, but it is a wealth of information located on luthed.org. I encourage you to browse the website and to go there quite frequently, as again, there are many, many tools and information available to you as a principal at luthed.org. The process itself, the application, hopefully, again, you've submitted that application. Surveys, please start that survey process if you're in your NLSA self-study year. There are surveys broken down by grade level and then also surveys for your parents. If you have not looked at these before, they are available at luthed.org as part of the NLSA materials. But again, please start on the surveys early in the process. The self-study, there are several standards in the self-study. There are narratives that need to be answered. So give yourself sufficient time for the self-study process. Make the self-study one that truly does give you the appropriate feedback and is one that you spend time on. And again, establish that timeline early. Get the groups together and the committees formed early as well. The site visit, which typically happens in the spring, most schools will do the site visit either in March or frequently in April. The school action plan, that is your plan developed at the end of the process, one that the site visit team will examine and may very well add to your school action plan, especially as we look later on at the scores on your indicators. If there's a score of a 2, that will be added to your school action plan. So please know that that could change, and then the school action plan that you submit to the district office will be that final action plan, including the items that the self-study site visit team points out to you. There's a district commission that will take a look at your self-study and at the final site visit team's report, and then we'll take action and send it on to the National Accreditation Commission. The Missouri District Commission will meet at the end of May. The National Commission for Accreditation will meet in July. And then, as a reminder, there are annual cumulative NLSA reports that get submitted. If you are in the year of the site visit, that report is submitted in May and is due to the district office by May 15th. If you are not in a year of a site visit, that report is due April 15th. Proposed timeline, May to June, send in the application. Recognize that you are in the year of a site visit. June to August, form a steering committee. That steering committee will oversee the entire process and really keep the trains running on the track, making sure timelines are adhered to and that the report and self-study are getting done. In September, establish the other committees that are formed. Typically, a committee for each of the 7 standards is formed. In October through January, the committee reports, making sure that the committees are gaining the information, going through the self-study process, and communicating back to the steering committee. By February, hopefully that self-study is completed and ready to send off to your consultant for a final check and getting ready to be sent off to the site visit team. In April, that's typically when the team visits occur. April tends to be a very busy time for site visits, so if you can get the site visit in March, that's always appreciated as well. May, again, sending the report to the district office, the district commission meeting and looking through the report and the site visit team's report as well, and then sending on to the National Commission where they will act on the request to accredit your school. The National Commission will assign a reader to your self-study and to the site visit team's final report as well. And then that reader will make a recommendation at the National Commission for Accreditation. Please follow and adhere to the timeline. Please do not fall behind in this timeline, as then it's not as effective in terms of giving you feedback and providing for the school in the way that Nlsa is designed to do. And then also for the site visit team, they do need time to look at the report and read the information and prepare prior to coming to your school. The steering committee, typically comprised of principal, teacher, school board member, PTL representative, parent, pastor, board of director member. In other words, it's meant to be a very good cross-section representation of your constituency. While all of these may not be on your steering committee, again, the goal is to provide great representation from multiple constituencies, and the steering committee overseeing the entire NLSA process for the self-study. Subcommittees. Typically, subcommittees are comprised of a chair from the steering committee that will then report back to the steering committee on that subcommittee's work, making sure that the timeline is being adhered to and the work is truly getting accomplished. On the subcommittees, typically a teacher, school board member, parent, or congregation member. The self-study process. In the self-study, you will be responding to questions. Again, there are some narrative responses that you will be asked for. School community, some information about the school itself, the narratives that you are used to doing. There's also required evidence that must be part of the self-study. If you're missing a piece of the required evidence, it will result in not achieving accreditation. So please be aware of the required evidence. Lists of required evidence can be found at luthad.org under the NLSA tab. There's also potential evidence, which is just that, evidence that you can add to your self-study that does show that your school is performing in a specific area. Same thing with potential practices. Required indicators of success must be present. That's a yes or no answer. And general indicators of success will be a ranking of 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will get to all of the evidence items and the rating scale later in this presentation and take a look a little bit more in depth of what that means. And then a summary and response for actions. So the self-study, again, a school narrative profile, providing information related to your school. All of that is found at luthad.org, the NLSA self-study guide. Surveys showing the relationships broken down by grade level, and then surveys of your parents. Compliance with standards, required evidence, and general evidence will all be part of your self-study process. Again, make sure that you are attacking the self-study early, that you're setting a very good timeline for yourselves to accomplish this with the evidence that is required and evidence that you are expected to provide for the general sections. Your school profile, general information including the community, enrollment at the school, information about your staff, including what they teach, degrees that they hold, and so on, and then supplemental services. The surveys, you will be surveying parents, teachers, students in grades 1 to 3, as the survey is broken down specifically for those grade levels, and then grades 4 to 8 as well. Again, all of these surveys are found on luthad.org. The questions that are present in those surveys must be asked. You can ask additional questions if you so desire, or you can wrap this in. Perhaps you do an annual survey, maybe a climate survey of your school. If you do, that's great, but please include all of the questions that are present in these surveys that can all be found at luthad.org. And then a summary of the results. National Lutheran School Accreditation Evidence-Based Accreditation Standards. Here we'll take a quick look at the standards and what they are. The 7 standards. Standard 1, purpose. The school's purpose, philosophy, mission statement serves as the basis for forming goals, learner outcomes, and action plans, as well as determining a direction for all activities for the school. Throughout the self-study process, every phase of the school program is evaluated in order to determine if they are being carried out in accordance with the school's stated purpose. And here's your first yes or no. Does the school comply with required indicators for Standard 1? Here are the indicators. The school's written purpose statement is rooted in Holy Scripture, agrees with the Lutheran confessions, and reflects sound educational and psychological principles. Yes or no? A yes must be present. If you say no, they're automatically you fail the accreditation process. So these must all be answered yes. They are required indicators here. 1.2, school leadership and staff members understand and accept the purpose of the school. So yes or no, once again, should be answered a yes, must be answered a yes in order for accreditation to be approved. Are required evidentiary pieces for Standard 1 prepared and in good order? So again, you have to provide evidence that this is happening, and it must be present for the site visit team to say, yes, here is the written purpose, philosophy, and mission statement of the school. And 1.1 and 1.2 are prepared and in good order. Standard 2, relationships. Standard 2 is divided into 3 categories: school and congregation, school and community, and climate. Standard 3 is on leadership. Leadership of the school is a major factor in the successful development, implementation, and evaluation of the school. Leadership is provided through a variety of groups and people. The 2 primary leadership components are the governing board and appointed administrator. Standard 4, professional personnel. A dedicated professional and support staff is an essential quality related to an accredited Lutheran school. Qualified and competent staff members should align their activities with the stated purpose and work together to create a safe and productive learning environment for students. Standard 5 is on teaching and learning. Student learning requires the integration of well-developed curriculum and instructional design supported by intentional and ongoing assessment. When teaching, learning, and assessment are correctly aligned and students are engaged, learning results. In this way, Lutheran schools accomplish one of their primary objectives. Standard 6 is on student services. Accredited Lutheran schools support students and their families with a wide variety of services that enrich the education experience of students. Section 6, student services, is divided into 4 categories: guidance and counseling, extracurricular activities, health and safety, and food services. Standard 7 is on facilities. The Lutheran school's physical facilities include the building, land, equipment, maintenance of the property, and provisions for health, safety, and sanitation. The school is both a place for learning and an instrument of learning. As a place for learning, it should help children grow spiritually, physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, and aesthetically. As an instrument used in the learning process, it should demonstrate principles of beauty, harmony, order, and utility. Its decor should point people to the God they love and serve. So evidence-based Nlsa self-study, indicators, and evidence. Again, there are 7 standards, 7 sections. Each standard will have required indicators. Each standard will have required evidence. And then each one will have general indicators. The required indicators must be answered yes. The required evidence must be presented and presented in good order to the site visit committee. If not, if the required indicator is not a yes, if the required evidence is not present, that would create a failure of accreditation. Here you see the required indicators for each section, a total of 15. Required evidence for each section, again, a total of 15. And then the general indicators for each section or each standard. Standard reports, purpose, standard 1. Standard 2, relationships. Standard 3, leadership. Standard 4, professional personnel. 5, teaching and learning. 6, student services. 7, facilities. Again, the breakdown of each one, and you see the indicators for each one in parentheses for the total overall. Responses. Narrative responses are to be written for all of the questions at the beginning of each standard area. So you will have narrative responses at the beginning of your self-study, and then each of the standards also requires a narrative response. Required evidence. Required evidence must be attached to the self-study document and will be used by the subcommittees to arrive at its conclusion related to each general indicator. This, again, is where I really encourage you to utilize Google Docs if you are a Google Docs school, and break down in Google Docs your Nlsa report, have each standard as a Google Doc file folder, and then to provide the evidence in each of those file folders. When the site visit team comes, some schools have used the plastic bin process of dropping the required evidence, potential evidence into the bin for that standard. So you might have a plastic tub for standard 1, a plastic tub for standard 2, so on and so forth. And then inside of there, hanging file folders with the evidence, whether it be required or potential. If you do this by Google Docs, it's much easier to upload those into each of the standards and to provide that information then by sharing the Google Doc with the site visit team. Required evidence. So this must be there. You are required to have this. If you do not have this required evidence for each of the standards, you will not be provided accreditation. Standard 1, the written purpose, philosophy, mission statement. Whatever it is that you call it, you might call it a mission statement. Some schools call it a purpose. Whatever is the case, that required evidence must be there for standard 1. Standard 2, non-discrimination policy and school discipline code. Both must be there. Both are required evidence. Standard 3, governing board handbook or policy manual, and the administrator's job description. Standard 4, the required evidence is the school staff development plan and non-discriminatory salary and benefit scale. Standard 5, a current schedule for each classroom. Written curriculum for every grade level. Notice that is in red. That is an item that does not have to be attached to the report that's sent to the site visit team. However, I do encourage you to use Google Docs, and with Google Docs, that can certainly be uploaded to your standard 5 file folder, and the written curriculum can be there. A chart illustrating what percentage of each school week is allocated for each subject. An analysis of the results of standardized tests administered. All of those must be there as required evidence. Standard 6, enrollment and admission policy. Volunteer handbook, crisis emergency plan. Standard 7, school floor plan. So those are your required evidences for each of the standards. Now, required indicators. Required indicators must be answered yes in order for the school to be accredited in good standing. If you answer no to one of the required indicators, that may mean failing accreditation or having accreditation with provision. General indicators. A rating implementation for each indicator of success is based upon evidence and practices that support it. Each general indicator is to be rated using the rubrics and assigned a point value. So each of the standards will have general indicators. For the general indicators, A 4 is highly functional, meaning that all rubrics have been met. Each of the general indicators will have bolded items. Some may have 2, some might have 5 bolded items. All of those bolded items must be met, and additionally, there has to be a wow factor for it to be rated a 4. So in other words, other schools should look at that and say, wow, this is what they're doing. We should replicate that. Operational, that's a 3. There are very few 4s that will come out of your self-study and very few 4s that will come out of the site visit team. So please recognize and know that. A 4 has to be a wow. Most of your general indicators will be rated a 3, operational, meaning that all rubrics have been met, all of the bolded items for that general indicator are present. That's a 3. A 2 is emerging. A 2 would mean that some of the bolded items on your general indicator are not present. So let's say a general indicator has 5 bolded items that you are expected to meet or to be present, that the site visit team will say, yeah, here are the 5 bolded items. Are they all there? Well, you may not have 2 of the 5 present. If that's the case, very well might be emerging, could be operational still. If 3 of the 5 are not present, that would definitely mean it's a 2 and emerging. A 1 means it's not evident. The very few of the rubrics, few of the bolded points have been met. Bullet points of evidence and written comments should be provided explaining the rating given each indicator of success. So when you rate in the self-study that general indicator, please provide points of evidence and written comments as to why you rated that general indicator a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1. So let's look again at highly functional, the 4. This is an area of outstanding strength at the school. It not only meets all of the rubrics related to the general indicator, but is supported by extensive documentation and or observable practices that exceed expectations related to the indicator. This indicator established practices for other Lutheran schools to consider. It is the wow factor. It is over the top and should be replicated by others and is able to be replicated by others. Again, operational, this is the expected rating for a strong Lutheran school. All rubrics must be met completely for this indicator to be considered operational. The condition is supported with documentation and or observable practices that support the rating. Emerging. If one or more of the rubrics are not fully met, the rating must be emerging. Improvement is required in this area. The indicator is recognized as important by the school, but is inconsistently applied. Any rubric not fully met must be addressed in the school action plan. So in your school action plan, anything that is a 2 or a 1 must be addressed in your school action plan. If the site visit team takes a general indicator that you've rated a 3 and moves it to a 2, that also then must be included in your school action plan. A 1, not evident. There is observable conflict or deficiency with this indicator at the school. Less than the majority of the expectant rubrics are not met or addressed with sufficient practices, evidence, or documentation. This rating shall result in assignment of provisional status. This must be addressed in the school action plan, and a time frame for it to be addressed will be there as well. If you have questions about the rating scale, a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1, and on a specific general indicator, I really encourage you to talk with your consultant about your rating for that indicator. You may also come and ask me questions. You can email me, call me, ask me about a general indicator and what you think it should be ranked, a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1. I'm happy to help you with that process. Again, your consultant is assigned to help you through and guide you through the self-study. So do not hesitate to ask your consultant as well and to reach out at any point in time. Potential evidence. Potential evidence, gather a preponderance of evidence related to each general indicator. Use a list of suggested evidence. Uncover additional evidence. Evidence or lack thereof will assist the subcommittee to reach an agreement on a rating rubric for each indicator. Seek policies and practices that are underway at the school that aid in the accomplishment of the indicator. Potential evidence does not need to be included with the self-study, but should be available for the visiting team to review. So if you do happen to use bins for your evidence and you're dropping in hanging file folders, please include, when the visiting team comes, anything that is potential evidence. This, again, is where it's great to utilize Google Docs and to upload all of this potential evidence underneath of the general indicator in a file folder for that standard. Potential practices. Like potential evidences, potential practices are collected to show how the school is meeting the indicators. A list of potential evidences and potential practices is included in each section to help the school consider items which may be beneficial for the school to pursue or implement. The potential practices also do not need to be included with the self-study, but should be used by the subcommittee to determine ratings for the indicators and be available for the visiting team to review. Again, I really encourage you to utilize Google Docs and to upload potential practices. If you're utilizing Google Docs, you may want to videotape some of these potential practices that are occurring at your school and upload that video or a link of the video, if you happen to upload it to YouTube, into that standard for that general indicator. Potential practices, again, the more that you can utilize showing the site visit team, the better. If you are utilizing Google Docs, this is a great way to provide the site visit team this practice or the potential evidence as well. When you're looking at the NLSA self-study, there are listed potential practices for each of the standards. There's listed potential evidence. Go to luthed.org, take a look at the self-study. All this information is present. There's also a very good Excel spreadsheet that one of the schools going through the NLSA process has provided for your use and for others to utilize. Does a great job of showing you the potential practices and potential indicators. School action plan. As the concluding part of the school self-study, a preliminary action plan must be developed. So out of your self-study, you will develop a school action plan. This plan will be designed to address every area of concern. So in this plan, you must have anything that was a 2 and anything that was a 1. You may also, as it states here at the end, each concern must be noted and addressed. You can also include anything that's a 3 if it's an area that you really have a desire to work on. If the site visit team moves something from a 3 to a 2, you must address that in your final school action plan that you submit to the district office, and that the district office will then submit to the National Accreditation Commission. After the school receives the visiting team report, it will be required to amend its preliminary report to include additional concerns that were identified by the visiting team, and again, anything that was moved from a 3 to a 2. Preliminary action plan. Here's the format for it. Attach this to the self-study document, and then again, update it at the end. Include the section and standard number, the concern and related strategies for remediation, the target year, the responsible party, and the year completed. Powerful practices. Practices associated with general indicators that have been rated as highly functional, which is a 4 by the school, have the potential for identification as a best practice if the practice has been transformational, and this is very important, it has to be be able to be replicated as well by other schools. Identify and explain any practices, no more than 3 at your school, that you have identified as best practices. It is possible that your school meets accreditation standards without best practices. The finished report has the school profile, the self-study, a preliminary school action plan, required evidences, 3-ring binder. Yes, I mean, if this is the process that you're going through and you're going to print it out hard copy, I would really highly encourage you to utilize Google Docs and then provide the visiting team access to the Google Docs. Copy to the visiting team, the consultant, the district office. We ask that this now be done electronically and no longer by the 3-ring binder process. And then we will provide the copy to the National Lutheran School Accreditation Office as an electronic copy. Also, do keep several copies for the school. Keep copies electronically. If you have this in Google Docs, it provides that ability to utilize this as an ongoing process as well, and really will jumpstart you for the next accreditation self-study. The site visit. Visiting team captain is chosen by the administrator from a list of trained captains. Work on this with your consultant. Team consists of 6 members. The consultant is not on the visiting team. However, the consultant can now be on that visiting team. They just cannot serve as the captain of the team. So if you so desire for the consultant to be on the team, they certainly can be a team member, just not serving as the captain. The visit will last for 2 days, and the team must be approved by the LCMS office. So please submit your visiting team members ahead of time. Score on each of the sections, each of those standards that are in there, the general indicators, will be scored to the nearest 10th on each of the section. The overall score will be to the nearest 100th. Team assignment. For the teams that go out, they will determine a preliminary score for each of the indicators. They will take a look at who they need to interview, observations that happen at the school, evidences that they will be examining. Again, they will be looking for all of that required evidence and potential evidence. They'll be looking for accommodations they have for you as a school. They will also look for potential concerns or recommendations. They will share those with the steering committee, and they will give you great feedback on your self-study. The site visit, here's some things to consider. Some potential costs, there might be some lodging for team members unless they're local and able to drive to your school site. Meals for the team, consider what the team will be provided for breakfast, lunch, and dinner during their time. Mileage for the team. Opportunity to meet with stakeholders, that's necessary. So figure out where that will happen, when it will happen, and any snacks or items that need to be available at that time. Snacks for the team, as they will be meeting in a room at your school. Please provide a nice, suitable space for the team to do their work, an area where they're able to spread out their materials. They'll be coming with laptops, so make sure that they have access to your network. It's always great to have an LCD projector in the room so that they can have access and project the standards on the wall so team members can discuss their various standards and answers and feedback on those and what you have provided in the self-study. Notepads, pens, pencils, all great items to have. Make them feel at home and welcome at your school, as I'm sure that you will do. You may also consider whether or not a substitute teacher is needed for one of the team members and think about the cost for that, or if the school which that person is coming from will pick that up. Thank you gifts. You might want to provide a little something, but this is being done, provided free will from your fellow Lutheran administrators and educators. It really is a great professional development for the principals and Lutheran educators to be part of a visiting team. So really, a thank you gift is not necessary. Do not include something that's expensive or anything else. That's kind of gone with the past site visits. So it's an opportunity for, again, professional development. You can certainly give them a small gift of gratitude and thanks. And most of this is done just by providing for their needs during the visit process. Visiting team report and exit report will be delivered at the conclusion of the site visit. Do think about the individuals you would like at that exit report, administrator, educators, the board or board representative, so on and so forth. And then a written report will be submitted later. It will be sent to you, and then it will also be sent to the Missouri District Office. The levels of accreditation: accredited in good standing. That is really what you are seeking. Provisional accreditation might be there, especially if there's a 1 on some of your indicators. It will definitely be there if you are missing a required piece of evidence. Exemplary accreditation, you may be familiar with this. This is gone. Now in its place, there are schools of distinction. Annual reports. Recommendations from the school action plan are prioritized by the school year. Recommendations are addressed annually. Report is sent to the district on the progress that's being made on your school action plan or your school improvement plan. As a reminder, Nlsa annual reports, the cumulative annual report, and the Missouri Non-Public School Accreditation Association annual report are due to the Missouri District each year. There is an annual fee for each one. It is due April 15th or May 15th if it is a year that you're going through accreditation, reaccreditation, and the year of the site visit. Team checklist. So the visiting team, this is what they will look at prior to coming in for their site visit. Some yes and no's that they will check off right away. The school has successfully completed the Nlsa Phase 1. The school has successfully completed the standards checklist. The exhibits are appropriate and complete. The school indicated satisfactory compliance with the Nlsa standards. The narrative summary statement for each section indicates valid reasons for incomplete compliance or noncompliance. The needs assessment adequately identifies school and student needs. The action plan identifies all deficient indicators of success. The action plan is timed to address all deficient indicators of success over the cycle of accreditation. Things to consider. Again, the work area of the site visit team, making sure that they have access to internet, to your wireless network, making sure that they have materials, making sure that they have access to your standards, to your self-study report, to the required indicators, to required evidence, to potential indicators, and potential evidence. Making sure that all of that is present. A great way to do this, I really encourage you to utilize Google Docs for that process. Team members should have Gmail accounts for utilizing Google Docs. That's something that you may want to talk over with your consultant. Excuse me, and with the team captain. Be contagious. This is exciting. It's undertaking that can be a challenge. There is work to be done, but do be excited about it. I congratulate you for undertaking the Nlsa self-study process, for looking to grow, looking to be encouraged in that great work that you are doing, and then also taking a look at how do we grow, how do we get better, how do we improve. That is the Nlsa process, and it will all occur. You will be encouraged and uplifted by the site visit team and those things that you are doing wonderfully, and then also encouraged to grow in other areas. So it is a great process. Let me give you some sample scenarios to help you as we will look at specifics from some sections. Section 4, which is personnel. A qualified and competent staff serves the school. Here are some of the areas that you'll have to respond to. State the educational requirements and or credentials for your professional personnel. You'll be required to list each of those individuals and those credentials that are present. What is the current student-teacher ratio? Describe the staff development process in place to help teachers learn and grow professionally. Describe the content and frequency of staff meetings and evaluate their effectiveness. Describe ways in which teachers demonstrate their personal relationship with Jesus Christ and their dedication to the Lutheran teaching profession. Describe the entire induction process, including background checks for staff members. Describe the way teachers and staff members are equipped in current instructional technology. These are all narratives, so you are asked to respond to each one of these questions in a narrative format in Standard 4 personnel. Required evidence. This evidence must be attached to the self-study document, the school staff development plan, non-discriminatory salary and benefit scale. Again, these two are required evidences for Standard 4 personnel. Potential evidence. Here are all items that you can upload to show, again, provide potential evidence that this is occurring. The faculty handbook, job descriptions for all non-administrative school positions, teacher portfolios, professional personnel files related to teacher qualifications and competency, list of teachers' professional organization memberships, policy and procedures on preparing volunteers, policies related to support staff, current salary and benefit scales, qualifications and training of school volunteers, new teacher induction guidelines, survey results that you do. All potential evidence, again, each of the standards will provide you with a bolded list of possible potential evidence. So you don't have to think for yourselves, what is it that I can provide for potential evidence? Here's a list. You can certainly add to that list, but these are all great items. Potential practices, same thing. Each of the standards will provide you with some bolded lists of potential practices that you can utilize for your self-study and then also provide to the visiting team as part of that self-study report. Peer-to-peer observations, teacher visits and observations to other schools, participation in accreditation work, effective vetting, preparation, and support for new teachers, teacher home visits. Required indicators. So for Standard 4 on personnel, this is a required indicator, meaning it has to be answered yes or no. All required indicators are yes or no answers. All school personnel express and demonstrate agreement with the stated school purpose. For accreditation in good standing, it must be answered yes. General indicators. Again, each of the standards will have several general indicators. The general indicators are ranked from 4, highly functional, 3, operational, 2, emerging, to 1, not evident. So in this one, in 4.02, under personnel, the general indicator is Christ-centered teachers have qualities and qualifications necessary for success in their defined areas of service. Schools must demonstrate with documented evidence and practice that they comply with the following in order to function at the operational level. Notice here we have several bullets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullets on this general indicator. For this to be a 3, each one of those bullets must be answered in the affirmative. If one is not, then it will be a 2. So all teachers demonstrate a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and a dedication to teaching in the Lutheran school. Yes. Full-time faculty members are on the roster of the Synod or eligible. A lot of our schools, that is not the case. So if you have faculty members, full-time faculty members, that are not on the roster or roster eligible, this would automatically be a 2 emerging, and it cannot be a 3 operational. So please keep that in mind. That is not only for the general indicators in section 4 or standard 4, that's for all of the general indicators in each of the standards. If one of the bullets on a general indicator is not occurring, it must be a 2 emerging and cannot be a 3 operational. And then, since it's a 2 emerging, it must show up in your school improvement plan and be addressed. Here's one more, 4.03. Employees and volunteers serving in support roles have the qualifications and training necessary for success in their defined area of service. Schools must demonstrate with documented evidence and practice that they comply with the following in order to function at the operational level. So to be a 3, all 5 of these bullets must be affirmed. Support staff, e.g., teachers, assistants, student teachers, nurse, meet state standards for their specific assignments. Yes. Appropriate policies related to support staff are established and practiced. Yes. Adequate training for support staff is provided. Yes. Appropriate policies and training for volunteers are in place. Yes. Staff members understand and relate appropriately with students and their families. Yes. I've answered yes to each of those bullets, meaning that it's a 3 operational. To be a 4, I'd have to go above that, and there'd have to be a wow factor that we're doing that others should replicate in their schools because it is phenomenal. So just meeting each bullet is a 3, not a 4. And then, as you see, for each one of the general indicators, identify and list supporting evidence or practices, and then provide comments on each one. Here's one more, 4.04. Teachers and workers are inducted, evaluated, encouraged, and supported in their continuing pursuit of professional growth and development. Schools must demonstrate with documented evidence and practice that they comply with the following in order to function at the operational level. Again, each one of those bullets must be answered in the affirmative, and you must have evidence and show the practices that they are occurring for it to be ranked a 3. If you meet all of those bullets, it is not automatically a 4. It is a 3. If you do not answer in the affirmative in one or more of those bullets, then it would be a 2 and be emerging and must be addressed on your school improvement plan. 4.05, same thing. Teachers and workers are empowered and equipped to effectively accomplish their assigned task. All of those bullets must be a yes to be a 3. There must be a wow factor that others should take from you and replicate for it to be a 4. If one of those bullets is not being met, it's a 2. Please remember again, for each of the general indicators below the ranking, identify and list supporting evidence or practices and provide comments. So in summary, for the NLSA process and the self-study and what the visiting team will be looking at, are the required indicators of success met? Required indicators must be met. The required indicators must be answered yes, and then required evidence as well must be there. Based on your findings, what are the strengths of your school in this area? Based on any deficiencies, develop specific plans to improve your school in this area. Develop specific plans with target dates and assignments for all areas identified as emerging, which will be a 2 on the general indicators, or not evident, which will be a 1 on general indicators. What is the school's overall, the average rating for all general indicators? The rating for each section. Section 4, for instance, professional personnel would have a rating, and then that rating would go out to the nearest 100th for the section. The nearest 10th would be provided for an overall rating of the school. So it could be for professional growth, you might have a 2.85. Each of the standards is then rated together, and an overall rating for the school is provided, and an overall rating might be a 2.8. Actually, it's to the nearest 100th overall. National Lutheran School Accreditation. Here's some other factors to keep in mind, some general information, not about the self-study, but just, again, kind of general information overall. To give you an idea of the ratings, the evidence-based accreditation results in 15, 16, and 17. Here you see in 15, 69 schools went through the process. 2016, 73 schools went through the process, and in 2017, 65 schools. Notice overall school rating, again, is going out to the 100th. Each section will go out to the nearest 10th. So an average, 2.84 was an average in 2017. I kind of look at, and normally when I go out and present, and I'm more than happy to come to your school and talk to your board, your faculty, whomever, in terms of a Nlsa EBA presentation and preparation. Normally a 2.65 to 2.8 is a range that I always say a lot of schools fall in. If you're going above that 2.85, 84 range, the closer you're getting to a 3, the more impressive you are as a school. And it's very hard to hit that 3 because there are so few 4s that are given. A 4 is a wow factor. It's not just meeting the minimum expectations, it's going way above and beyond. So there are very few 4s, and obviously there's going to be a few 2s that are in your report because they're emerging where you have not met all of the bullets for a section. What is a candidate school? Well, you can receive accreditation in good standing. You can receive accreditation with provision, and then accreditation with distinction is possible. Accredited in good standing, a school successfully concludes an Nlsa process or completes a process associated with recognized accreditation partners, complies with required standards and indicators of success, and is committed to continuing school improvement. Being accredited is a significant accomplishment. Accredited with provision. An accredited school concludes an Nlsa process or completes a process associated with recognized accreditation partners. It could be advanced ed, it might be middle states or WASC, other areas of country. There are regional accreditation partners with Nlsa. The school has failed to comply with any single required evidence or indicator or has major deficiencies, but demonstrates a commitment to continuing school improvement. A school using the Nlsa evidence-based accreditation protocol that is assigned any general indicator rating of 1 results in the automatic designation of accreditation with provision. So again, please keep that in mind. Any general indicator of a 1 will result in automatic designation of accreditation with provision. Major deficiency. Any condition that is based on an Nlsa standard which has a severe negative effect on the quality of education, the ministry of the school, and or endangers the health or safety of the school population. The deficiency must be remedied by the school within the time parameters, no longer than 2 years, typically no longer than a year, prescribed by the visiting team and approved by the National Accreditation Commission. An overall school rating, percentage of all other than the percentage of every indicator. So the overall school rating, final school rating is determined by ratings awarded to the 41 indicators rather than the 7 standard areas. So each one is taken together for an overall school rating. The evidence-based accreditation school action plan. The plan must be constructed by the school to address items rated as a 1, which remember will result if a general indicator is a 1 in provisional, or a 2 by the school. And then when the site visit team comes and they provide their final report, they may have taken a general indicator from a 3 to a 2. That also then must show up in your school improvement plan or your school action plan. Plan must be attached to the school self-study at the time of the visit, and then it will be updated after the site team visits. The evidence-based accreditation school action plan. The plan must be amended at the time of the visit to include the concerns identified by the visiting team. The final plan, including visiting team concerns, must be submitted to the District Accreditation Commission and passed along to national reviewers from the membership committee. This is a look at LuthEd, the National Lutheran School Accreditation, and what NLSA is. Here you see the focus areas, the 7 standards. Right up here is the drop down for National Lutheran Schools Accreditation. It is not password protected, so I encourage you to go to the NLSA tab on luthed.org and to take a look at all of the information that's provided there, including what is evidence-based accreditation. The application is there. All the information that you need on NLSA is at luthed.org. They also have several resources there for you that will be helpful. The self-study document is there. There are sample plans for different areas and different standard areas for the NLSA EBA process. There's visiting team documents, school documents. There's documents that are there for the school administrator that you can look through in preparation for the self-study as well as the site visit. The Minnesota district has done a very nice job of breaking out NLSA evidence-based. Here are some websites that you can go to. I encourage you to go to those, as well as one from the South Wisconsin district. Google Drive files. I really encourage you to utilize Google Docs for the self-study and then for the visiting team. There is a best practice webinar from NLSA that has been done on this. This is the URL for that best practice webinar, preparing a digital self-study utilizing Google Drive. It's from a school that has gone through the NLSA process. They utilize Google Drive. They uploaded videos as potential evidence and so on and so forth. Go to this URL, or you can go to luthed.org and search for this digital self-study utilizing Google Drives, and it will come up. Please know I'm here to answer any questions, help you through the process, come out to present to your faculty, to a board, whomever you may so desire. Please also know that your consultant is there to help you in every step of the process. Please utilize your consultant. Please utilize me for any part of the process as well. You can call me, email me, whatever the case may be, and I'm happy to help you through that process and answer any questions that you may have as they come up in the self-study. It could be questions about required evidence, potential evidence. It might be the general indicators and how do you do a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1 for one of the indicators based on the bullet points that are there. Whatever the case is, please feel free to always reach out and ask your questions, and we are here to help you in any way that we can through the process, or to find out from someone else how we can help you in that process. Thank you so much for taking part in the NLSA webinar here that's provided to you for help and guidance. Thank you very much for going through National Lutheran Schools Accreditation, the evidence-based accreditation process. I hope it's a tool that's extremely useful to you, one that's affirming, and one that also challenges you to continue to grow as a school. Blessings in all you do. Thank you for all that you do each and every day at your Lutheran school, and may we always do all to His glory.